Hi, this is Dave.
And Sarah. We're Chris's physical therapists.
And Chris is one of the least mobile people I know.
And he has a funny walk.
But check this out.
What would happen if you skipped one cocktail a week? And I'm not talking about like deprivation. We are not about compromise. I'm talking about like the cocktail that the next morning you wake up and you're like, I really didn't need that last cocktail. If you skipped one $10 cocktail a week, you'd have over $72,000 in retirement.
Alrighty, everyone, this is the Money Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Peach, and I'm going to be bringing on some of the most amazing people I can find so they can tell you how they do their life and their money the right way. Here we go. My guest on the show today is co-founder of Stash Wealth, Priya Malani. Now, Priya's coming on the show today to talk about how she's no longer your father's financial advisor, and there's a better way to talk and handle the finances. We're going to be talking about putting profit first. We're going to be talking about some of the best online savings accounts, how to hate on your budget. Yes, can you believe I just said hate on your budget? We're going to be talking about emergency funds, and we're going to be talking about H.E.N.R.Y.s. Yes, what is a H.E.N.R.Y? Inside the show, we're going to discuss exactly who and what the H.E.N.R.Y.s are. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest and co-founder of Stash Wealth, Priya Malani. Priya, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris.
So I am going to forewarn everybody that we talked about this before the episode and we're just going to go with it. But Priya is she loves what she does. She's very animated. I've listened to a lot of the podcasts. She does an excellent job, but sometimes she gets a little excited and throws out maybe a swear word or two. So we're going to do our best to beef them out. She said, do I need to pull back? And I said, no, I want you to be you. I don't want you to be thinking about that. We can beep that out. That's what they have censors for. So I just want to throw that out there. That's what we're going to do. Is that okay, Priya?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So we'll just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and just open this up. So you are the founding partner of Stash Wealth, which the tagline is get your financial together.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Get your financial shit together.
That's right. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me about how'd you get started in this financial world? Because Stash Wealth, obviously people are thinking, okay, she does something with finances. We're going to talk about that. But how did you get your start?
How did I get my start? I mean, I was a ballerina growing up. I was dancing professionally. After a certain period of time, my body started breaking down. I retired around age 21 and I left the arts for Wall Street. So yeah, never looked back.
Most times when you become a ballerina, it's automatic transition that you go right into Wall Street, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, like you start out as a ballerina.
Very common transition, exactly.
So you were one of those type of ballerinas that can literally go on like what's that called where you go on the
point,
tip of your toe?
Yep, you go on point. You dance on point.
And that's supposedly very painful.
It depends. You're used to it. Your toes are numb at that point. You don't feel it.
Okay. Earlier we were talking about, you said you lived in Kentucky, you're from New York, but you're Indian.
Yeah. Right before I started high school, my family moved from New York to Kentucky, which was a bit of a culture shock, but it taught me a lot and brought me to the South, which I actually have a great appreciation for now. Then I was auditioning at different companies and I ended up dancing with the Atlanta Ballet. I applied to colleges around in that area and I was accepted to Agnes Scott, which is an all-women's college. So it kind of worked out because I was dancing with the Atlanta Ballet. I was going to school down there. And I don't know, there was something in the back of my mind. I always wanted to get back to New York. And to me, I guess New York and Wall Street were synonymous. So slowly, as my body started breaking down and I was thinking like, how am I going to have a career and how am I going to make like money? I was an econ major and it was something that I was really excited about. So I slowly started interviewing and I got a job at Merrill Lynch in Atlanta. That's where I started.
Okay, what were you doing when you started with Merrill Lynch?
Started on the wealth management side, so working with high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, old people with money.
Okay, all right. This is perfect that we're talking about this because we're going to transition into something that's completely opposite, right? We're going to talk about young people with money. So how long were you there?
In wealth management, I was there for about 3.5 years before I transitioned to capital markets. I moved to New York and I worked for Merrill Lynch in New York in capital markets.
So that's how you moved to New York. You went from Atlanta to the New York. Okay, so you're working there. This is kind of where I'm guessing you're getting your feet wet in the world of financial planning, financial advising, helping people with their money at all different levels of net worth, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Some people were famous. Some people were were entrepreneurs who had done great and made good money. Some were inherited wealth. It was all different situations, but it was a lot of retirement planning mostly.
Was it fun?
No, it was not that. It was not that fun. I don't think there's so much more. Like, what about all the fun goals before retirement? But our clients were already at that point in their life, so it wasn't that exciting.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're helping people that they have plenty of money, correct? You're just helping them be efficient with it.
Yeah, exactly.
If they want to go and buy a brand new car, they just go out and buy a brand new car. Or if they want to go travel, there's no planning for that anymore because it's already been planned for ahead of time.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's what we say. The difference between rich people and everyone else is that rich people plan before they need a plan. And they already had their plan. They had already made their money. So it was now just kind of like managing it. Old people are in what we call distribution phase of their life. Whereas like young people, the ones we work with, are in their accumulation years. So it's just like a different mindset around how you approach teaching them what to do with their money, how to be smart with their money, how to utilize their money, how to protect their money, how to hack taxes. It's all that stuff it changes when you're talking to a younger demographic.
Sure, absolutely. So tell me then, how did you go from, working in that industry to, well, first, before we get there, let's talk about this term H.E.N.R.Y. So when I first got introduced to you, they said, you got to go talk to Priya Malani. She is helping out H.E.N.R.Y.s, or they're the ones that are working with all the H.E.N.R.Y.s. And I'm like, who? What? and I'm like, so I'll be honest with you. I am the last year of a millennial. Okay, I'm 34 years old. If you were born in 1983, you are officially a millennial, and that's where it ends. So I claim a millennial status. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I should know all these terms, and I'm learning, right? Like, there's all these cool sayings out there that millennials say, is like sup, right? Like SUP, sup. Like that's a cool one, right? Or yeah. Avocado toast. Like, I'll go and I'll order that. Even if they don't have it available, I'll still ask for it so they know that I'm a millennial.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but H.E.N.R.Y.s, when I heard this, I'm like, H.E.N.R.Y.? I was thinking like of a candy bar, or just like an old man. And so let's explain what a H.E.N.R.Y. is.
Oh my God. So H.E.N.R.Y. stands for high earner, not rich yet. So basically 20-somethings and 30-somethings who make good money and want something to show for it.
High earners, not rich yet.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this because I think when you're graduating high school or early off in college, no one is sitting there. At least I wasn't sitting there going, I cannot wait until I get a full-time job and I can start cutting back everything in my life, to save up enough money to pay off my debt. I was more thinking like, what can I do to generate more income to get rid of this debt? And what can I do to generate more income to be like your 80-year-olds that are in distribution phase that are just, they're rich doing what they want to do.
Living the dream. Yeah.
Living the dream. So what are H.E.N.R.Y.s looking for versus the rest of the population?
H.E.N.R.Y.s are young professionals who are super busy and do not want to compromise on their lifestyle today, but still want to know that they're on track for their future goals that are coming up in the next anywhere from 2, 3, 5, 10 years. So the biggest attribute, I think, for H.E.N.R.Y.s is that they don't want to compromise their lifestyle. They're at SoulCycle, they take Ubers, they travel all the time. They're all about Instagrammable moments, and it's not about what I don't want to be told, like, shown what I can't do. I want to be shown how much more I can do.
Sure. And I like that because I will say that I'm guilty of this. But long story short, Priya, my wife and I went deep in debt, ran completely out of money, spent about a year getting out. And so we did both. We cut our lifestyle way, way, way back to what we called scorched earth when we sold furniture to get out of debt. But then we also picked up side hustles, multiple different side hustles, sold a bunch of stuff and generated more income. And it was definitely a lot more fun to generate more income and have the mindset of we're going to make more than it was because you can only cut back so far, right?
Yeah, we always say there's only 2 levers you can pull, either earn more or spend less, and earning more is way more fun.
It's way more fun and there's no limit to it, right? I mean, you can literally go down to about a tent and boiling water in the park and that's kind of where it ends for you, right? Like you can't go any further down.
Right.
I mean, and the reason why I say that is like we know somebody that literally he lived on an island in a tent and he boiled water and cooked his food there to save money to get back to another island that he wanted to go to. So hearing that story, I'm like, wow, you really cut as far as you possibly could go. There's no other options except for that other lever. So I've listened to a couple of your podcast episodes you've done, and I love the way you talk about this, but let's just throw out some of the obvious things that you hear H.E.N.R.Y.s, and I think I agree with all of these, but some of the H.E.N.R.Y.s what are some of the needs, the wants? What do they want out there?
Oh my gosh, we put out a top 10 list every holiday season of like our top 10 goals that we see in stash plans. We're actually getting ready to do that this year for the end of the year. But like last year, one of the biggest things we saw in stash plans was the Tesla. That was a big goal. It's also other things. I will say the priorities of the Henry generation is a little bit different than our parents' generation. We don't necessarily feel like we want to settle down. We're a little bit more mobile. We're part of the sharing economy. So we're not about buying stuff as much as we are about sharing stuff and then using our money for experiences. But we're helping clients plan from everything from like, I want a blowout wedding to I want a city hall wedding and I want a blowout honeymoon to we want to start a family to I want to quit my job. I want to start a side hustle that turns into a full-time business. I mean, it's unlimited. There's a million things that Henrys want. We had one client I remember in the early years. She was like, my dad helps me with my finances and I make good money. She was a classic Henry, but she's like, I kind of want a BMW. And I just like, I'm afraid to tell my dad because he's going to be like, no, you shouldn't have that. We like ran her financial plan and she totally could. So yeah, we're all about like figuring out how to help you do more.
So still work hard, earn great income, but be able to efficiently spend your money and then also save a big portion of it too. Because I mean, if you're not saving your money, how are you going to live that dream where you retire, where money's no longer an issue? You got to do what you want, correct?
Yeah, we call it responsibly reckless.
Oh, okay. I like that. So responsibly reckless. Can we hashtag that somewhere? I mean, that's another term, right? I could say like hashtag responsibly reckless. All right. Because I'm a millennial, so I can say that. All right.
Yeah.
You and we talked about this ahead of time because I forewarned you. I said, look, I've been doing my homework on you and you and I don't 100% agree on everything. I think that's okay. It sparks up good conversation. Let's just kind of dive into some of the things we don't agree on. So I am a huge fan of the B word. I tell people all the time to get your butt on a budget. All right. And if you don't want to call it a budget, call it a cash flow plan or call it a plan. But basically, I just look at it going, if I'm running a business and I just guess on where the money's going, I'm going to be out of business, right? I gotta have an idea of what's coming in and going out. I can't just go, it feels good. I'm going to go buy, 10 more of these because it just feels good. I got to pay attention to the money coming in and going out. And I did my homework and I've heard you say before, you're not a big fan of the budget.
Yeah, we hate budgeting at Stash. We think it doesn't work. And it's not really what you want anyway. What you want is just to be able to enjoy your money and not think twice when you buy stuff. We actually do something called the reverse budget, which doesn't sound much sexier, I know. But the point is, the whole philosophy behind the reverse budget is save first, blow the rest. Kind of the Warren Buffett mentality of don't save whatever you have after you spend whatever you have left after you save. So that allows you to enjoy your money without feeling guilty about it and just to spend guilt-free. One of the problems with budgeting that we see is that, well, first of all, no 2 months are the same. There's no such thing as a typical month, right? Like maybe you set up your transportation budget, you're doing really good with taking, I live in New York, so MTA, right? Subways, you're like really on top of that. But then it's like a rainy month or rainy week and you're like, I'm taking Uber. And so like what happens? Your transportation goes out, the budget goes out the window, and then you're mad at yourself, and then you're like negotiating, well, maybe I'll just eat out less it's constant negotiating, and that's not fun. So with the reverse budget, once you set up what you're trying to achieve savings goals wise, then the rest of the money is yours to blow guilt-free, however you want. Maybe 1 month, like you have friends from out of town and you're out more. Maybe the next month you've been pretty low key, but you're like, you know what? I'm gonna treat myself to a pair of red bottoms. It's more fun. That way, you can spend whatever's left in your checking account guilt-free.
Okay. So I don't totally disagree with you there then. I created a little bit different way. And maybe it is reverse budgeting, but the way we talk about it is, you have money coming in and assign it somewhere that's like really, really important. So if you are deeply in debt and you're never going to get out of debt unless you actually focus on paying down some debt, then I would say, let's take a chunk of your money, not all of it, and throw it towards debt. For you, you're saying blow the rest. For us, we're saying blow the rest, but tell it where to go before you blow it. And it doesn't have to be completely accurate, right? So I'll just make it easy numbers. Let's say that you have $10,000 a month coming in. And so we'd say, okay, let's take 2,000 of that, right? And let's pay off some of the student loan debt, right? Let's start getting this out of your life. Let's take some of it and let's invest, right? Let's put it we'll send it over to Stash Wealth and we'll start putting into some kind of investment, right? And then the rest of it, do what you want. If you want to go buy pizza with all the money for everybody go buy pizza for, you know what I mean? Or if you just want to go Uber from Phoenix to New York, because you think it would be cool, go Uber from Phoenix. It's your money. You get to decide what to do. So I think that's you and I agree, right?
Yes, absolutely. And 2,000 would be the right number because when you're in a situation where you have debt, 20% is a good guideline. You may not hit it immediately, but 20% is definitely a good guideline of how much should be going to paying down your debt.
See, you and I are on the same page, Priya. We're completely on the same page here. We just call it different things. Okay, so we talked about budgeting. What about an emergency fund? Do you think people should be saving for emergency funds? How do you feel about that?
Yeah. At Stash, we differ on the emergency fund from most other financial gurus. We think your emergency fund should be no more than 3 months worth of your fixed expenses. And your fixed expenses versus your flexible expenses, fixed are the stuff that, like, if you lost your job, would be very hard to turn off quickly. So rent, utilities, kind of the boring, predictable stuff. Take that number, whatever it is for you in 1 month, multiply it by 3. Your emergency fund should be absolutely no more than that, where most financial gurus, like, sometimes they'll tout even up to 6, 12 months. We think that's freaking crazy because, first of all, H.E.N.R.Y.s are hustlers. If you lose your job, you're more than likely going to hustle and get another one pretty fast. Second is your emergency fund is your first line of defense, not your only line of defense. So if hits the fan and you have to start tapping your emergency fund, while you're tapping your emergency fund, you're immediately starting to make backup arrangements that by the time the 3 months are over, you'll be prepared. Once you hit your 3 months in your emergency fund, then your money should start working harder for you. So let's say you're investing it for other life goals. And for whatever reason, you drain your emergency fund during that 3 month period. And okay, well, now you've had time to move the money strategically out of the market because you never want to make an emotional rush decision when you're investing. So you can slowly tap your investments that are working harder for you. Meanwhile, because right now savings accounts are not giving a very high interest rate. That even at Ally, it's 1.25 right now, 1.3 maybe.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. So, but inflation is going up at 3% a year. So technically you're still losing 2% on your money. So keeping more than 3 months in your emergency fund, in our opinion, is a little crazy. The only time we sometimes up that is if you have a pet. So sometimes you might want an extra month if you have an animal. But other than that, 3 months tops.
What if you have kids?
That's built into your fixed expenses. So if you multiply that by 3, you're fine.
Okay, I got you. I agree with you on that one too. So I say 3 months. Sometimes I'll say you should go up to 6 months. And the only reason why I say that is depending on what kind of industry you're in. So if you
100%,
if you are in some kind of crazy commission, you might not get paid for 6 to 8 months type thing, But again, we're talking about H.E.N.R.Y.s here. H.E.N.R.Y.s are high earners, not rich yet. They're getting there because they're hustlers, right? And in today's day and age, I feel like there are so many ways that you can make money, literally starting today. You don't have to go and apply for all these different jobs. You can literally go out and make money, sustainable money, where you can pay rent and put food in your stomach and all that kind of stuff by just side hustling. So, if you did lose your job or something happened, it's different than I would say even 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you couldn't get on your phone and sign up for Uber or Lyft. You couldn't go ride around on a bike and deliver Uber Eats. We have a side hustle post on our site where we just keep adding to it because anytime we come across something, we're like, man, people could do this today. It's so simple. I think maybe we might talk amongst the Money Peach group here. Do we go back down to 3 months? Because I sometimes think that maybe this 6 month thing is a little too much depending on your hustle effort.
Yeah. And then you have all these other fun goals that you want to work towards. If you keep having to just focus on building up your emergency fund, when do you get to move on to more fun stuff?
Exactly. So one of the things you said that was key, and I don't think I've mentioned this enough on the show, so we need to talk about this, is in a low interest environment, right? You can go out and get a mortgage and it's a low interest rate. Woohoo, right? That's great. But in a low interest environment, you also are going to have low interest returns on your savings accounts and your money market accounts. Ally Bank, I agree. I think they're the highest right now that I found at just over 1.2%. It's better than nothing, but it's not great by any means. And inflation is between 3 and 4% annually. So basically you're getting tackled from behind. Yes, you're running. So I always tell people
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah, you're walking forward, but really everybody is running past you. So you're still losing. So if you're just sticking money in a savings account, it's costing you money. You're not making money. You're not saving money. You're actually losing money in the long term. I think it's hard to comprehend that, right? But just think of that. How about this? Instead of inflation being 3%, let's just say it's 1.5%, but you're making nothing. Okay, now that makes sense. You're losing for sure, right? You're at zero. So that's important because recently we had somebody that we were meeting with. They were in sales. Both of them were in sales. 3 months expenses were probably right around in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. And they had $90,000 cash sitting in a checking account. And I'm like, why do you have $90,000 cash in a checking account? He's like, for emergencies. So he like literally had to go through the emergencies, and we just were making up emergencies. I'm like, a plane hits your house. Like we were just making up stuff. And he was like, wow, because that's dead weight, right? We'll just call that dead money. It's not doing anything for you. In fact, it's costing you money by not putting it somewhere that could actively help make you money. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
100%. Yep, I do.
We are on the same page again.
We are. Look at us.
I
Come on,
should go to Kentucky and then get some bourbon and then go to New York and be like, look, I know you through Kentucky, through New York, through the podcast. We just be financial geek gurus.
Yeah, I love it. I'll be drinking scotch, but you can have your bourbon and it'll be a good time.
Okay, so we just talked about, we hit the emergency fund, which I love. Talked about the B word, which I don't want to go back to because, we'll get all upset here. So the next thing is old school brick and mortar banks. What are your feelings on that?
We're indifferent on them for your checking account. Like, fine. Some clients really feel like that they see it, that it's the bank's on their corner, wherever their apartment or whatever, they can like walk into it for their checking account. I mean, quite frankly, the reason why that could work theoretically here, and this is something we talk about at Stash, is like, if you keep your checking account at a brick and mortar, but your savings account online, at least you keep your savings out of sight, out of mind, which helps you be tempted from touching it, helps to prevent your temptation. So that's okay. I mean, but ideally, a brick and mortar banks are, I guess I don't have a very strong opinion on them for a checking account, but definitely not for a savings account.
Definitely not for a savings account because, again, savings accounts are not making a ton of money, but the brick and mortar ones are making way less than the online banks. So,
well, here's a point to your friend with 90,000. Or we had a client who got $100,000 commission. It was crazy commission. And by the time she had come to us, she had already kept that 100,000 in a bank account, in a brick and mortar bank account for a year. I don't know if I should call any banks out. I won't call it out, but basically they're all the same. So in 1 year, she had made, I think it was something like $2 on that commission check. Had she just kept that at the time, I think we ran the math. We did it on Capital One 360, which was at 0.75, and it was something like $780. I mean, she literally missed out on like $800 of interest just by keeping it at a brick and mortar bank.
Yeah, and to add to that, whether you keep it in an online bank or whether you keep that money in a brick and mortar bank, it has the same protection, right? It's FDIC insured. It's not like, I think a lot of times people are still under the, maybe not H.E.N.R.Y.s, right? But I think
No. Actually, our clients have that misconception too, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they think like, oh, it's online. It's not as safe. And
what does that mean? What is the protection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's exactly the same. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the two banks that we recommend all the time are Capital One 360 and Ally Bank. I personally use Capital One 360, but I think Ally is as good or maybe even a little bit better because their rates are better right now.
Yes. The reason we used to love Capital One 360, and that was the one we went with over Ally, especially when the rates were more equal, was because as part of the reverse budget, we implement something called sub-savings accounts. So for all of our clients' shorter term goals happening in the next 2 to 3 years, like maybe you're buying a new couch, maybe you're saving up for your wedding, like whatever it is, we like you to have a designated savings account for that, to be funneling money on an automatic monthly basis into that account. Capital One 360 just makes it so easy to just add, we call it a sub-savings account, but it's really just another bank account, another savings account. They made it really easy to open those multiple. Ally, there's like additional paperwork involved, but I hear that's all changing. So those are both great, like you mentioned.
I hope it's not changing because we do the same thing personally, and we teach the same thing. We call them sinking funds. I'll give you an example. My wife and I have a vacation fund. We have a new car fund. We have a Christmas fund. We have an insurance fund. So like, give you an example. We choose to pay our insurance one time a year to save 10%. So what we do is we make our monthly premium into these sinking funds or these savings accounts, same thing at Capital One. And then once a year, we just pay it in full. We get a 10% discount. We also do that with vacations. So we have this thing over here called a budget, and we don't like to mess that thing up. So whenever like the unpredictable comes up where we have a vacation, like we're going to go to Costa Rica in the summer. So
nice. We
are excited because the money didn't come out of our monthly budget. The money came out of our vacation fund that it automatically gets saved for every single month, which is when you're not paying attention to it, you're like, oh my gosh, we have money. This is awesome. Like who does that, right?
I often joke that 10 years on Wall Street and my number one financial tip is automation. Like we're all busy. We don't need another thing on our to-do list. And it's the 21st century. Put your freaking financial life on autopilot. And to your point, I would say the two biggest sub-savings accounts that our clients have across the board, because there's plenty of variation, but the two that are pretty much the same for everyone are travel, because our generation travel is a number one. It's like a non-negotiable. And then the other one is holiday gifts, because otherwise for most people, what happens? The holidays roll around. You end up putting all the gifts on your credit card. January rolls around and you're like, well, who's paying for this?
Yeah. Get ahead of it. Be proactive. I think that's the number one habit of highly successful people is they need to be proactive. Actually, that is, according to Stephen Covey. So the next question I have then is H.E.N.R.Y.s, right? High earners, not rich yet. What are the biggest mistakes that H.E.N.R.Y.s are making, and how can they avoid them? Because at the time we're recording this is going to go out right before the new year. And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I fall in that H.E.N.R.Y. range, or I'm like Chris and I want to pretend I'm a H.E.N.R.Y. just on the cusp of it, what are some of like the mistakes that you see on a consistent basis that they can overcome?
You're probably going to see this one coming, but obviously don't wait to get your financial shit together. I think like time is obviously the most important benefit for money. You just should not waste time. Like in your 20s, every dollar you save is going to be like around $16 in retirement. Whereas in your 30s, if you wait and start, every dollar saved is like half of that. So to have the same kind of nest egg, you'd have to save double. And that's just not that's not fun math. That's not the kind of math we like. Actually, we did this example on our blog where we said, what would happen if you skipped one cocktail a week? And I'm not talking about like deprivation. We are not about compromise. I'm talking about like the cocktail that the next morning you wake up and you're like, I really didn't need that last cocktail. If you skipped one $10 cocktail a week, you'd have over $72,000 in retirement.
Wow. You can avoid
Kind of
that
powerful.
last cocktail that causes you to have that headache at 7 a.m. And that results in $72,000 in retirement if you start in your 20s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I think we did that example starting at 30. But yeah, it's like you're about to leave the bar and your friends are like, stay for one more. And you're like, fine. If you just like left, didn't get that last cocktail.
What would life feel like if you no longer had to worry about money? What would life look like with $10,000 in the bank and zero debt? Do you realize you're really only a few decisions away from living life on your terms and not the bank's? How do I know this? Well, because we were once living paycheck to paycheck, completely broke and facing a mountain of debt. However, fast forward to today, we're debt-free, we're building wealth, and we live life on our terms, not the bank's. So now it's your turn. I would love for you to join me on my free workshop where I share the same step-by-step system we use to take back our life and our money once and for all. So head on over to moneypeach.com/workshop and grab your free spot in this online training that you're going to absolutely love. Once again, that's moneypeach.com/workshop.
I have more mistakes.
Oh, yeah, I want to hear the more mistakes. Yeah.
Okay. My other one is so good because I feel like everyone falls into this, which is to confuse what you see on social media for reality. Like your friends appear a lot richer on social media than they actually are. And I think trying to use social media as a proxy for what your friends can afford is so misleading. And then you probably will end up being a victim of something we call lifestyle creep, which is basically just when your lifestyle increases in lockstep with your income, causing you to kind of stay in that paycheck to paycheck cycle. So you kind of say to yourself, like, fine, when I'm making $10,000 more, then I'll save, then I'll travel. And then a couple years go by and you are making $10,000 more and you're like, well, where is it going? Why don't I feel like I have any more money? So I feel like social media and lifestyle creep, these are things that you should definitely watch out for. And then my other one that I was thinking about is not confusing investing and gambling. This is something we're super big on at Stash because personally, we believe that Wall Street has done a really job of confusing the message between investing and gambling. And thanks to, well, I guess Wall Street, part media, they make it sound so sexy. Like clients come to us and they're like, oh, I have a couple $1,000s. Like, should I buy Facebook? And then we're like, that's not investing, that's gambling. And you might as well go to Vegas. It's way more fun. And they give you free cocktails. But if you're going to be investing, then you have to know what you're investing for. Whereas Wall Street loves to tell you what to invest in before knowing what you're investing for. That really, in our opinion, leads to investing for the sake of investing, which is just gambling and not how you build wealth.
You know, out of every guest we've had on the show, Priya, I think you're the only one to ever mention the gambling versus investing analogy. And I 100% agree with it. And like right now, I mean, if you're paying attention to the news, everybody is like going crazy about Bitcoin, right?
Bitcoin.
Yep. It's crazy. Like, should we jump in? Should we throw $1,000 in there? I don't give financial advice because I don't have the license to go ahead and say, yes, you should or shouldn't. But for me, if my wife who said, Chris, should we buy Bitcoin? I would say, well, it's one thing, right? That could go up and down in a second. So I feel like that's pulling a lever on a machine, right? That's gambling. Secondly, is if we're talking about it now, like it got all the way to Phoenix, Arizona, and we're thinking about it, we might be a little behind the eight ball on this one. I don't know. I would rather, like you said,
so true.
Vegas is, we're 4 hours away on a drive to Vegas, right? It's close for us. Like you said, I would rather go to Vegas and get the free cocktails and, get a room comped and feel good about actually gambling versus investing that way. Like, I'm going to put all my money in Facebook because that sounds awesome, or that's what my neighbor did, or Bitcoin or whatever it is, and then pretend I wasn't gambling, right? I'd rather gamble and be like, yeah, I just gambled, than like say it was investing when it really wasn't.
Yeah, like nobody wants to hear the truth, but investing done right is actually pretty unsexy and kind of boring. But that's why I was saying like time is the most important thing. Your money grows with time. And if you're expecting overnight success, then your mindset is more of gambling, not investing.
So I will say you guys have definitely done an amazing job of making the idea of investing for the long term sexy. In the show notes, we're going to put a link to your what is a Henry video? Which one is that?
Who the hell is Henry?
Who the hell is Henry? Yeah, we're gonna, because that video right there, it makes it fun. Like, yeah, that's the way I'm thinking too. I'm just finally somebody actually said it out loud. So we'll put a link to that. All right, so let's talk about Stash then. How does, like, if somebody's listening, going, hey, I'm interested in this. Like, I'm a Henry. I want a Tesla. I eat avocado toast, and I want to travel, but I also want to save. So how does Stash work?
Yeah, and don't we all? So I think we probably hit on the point that I was saying. It all starts with having a plan, having a game plan. So every Henry at Stash starts with something called the Stash Plan, which is a 5 to 6 week experience that we take clients through to develop a financial game plan, to overhaul their entire financial life, teaching them tax hacks, to explaining what insurance is and how to avoid insurance salesmen, estate planning, like really how to plan for the life of their dreams, and then back into the investments that are necessary to be on track for that lifestyle. So that's the first step everyone takes with us. It's a prerequisite for our full-time service because we're a full-time wealth management firm. We offer ongoing support. But in order to be eligible to work with us ongoing, you have to do the Stash Plan first. We teach you not only what you need to do to be smart with your money, but we explain why. Education's a really big part, because if you don't understand why, you probably won't stick to the strategy, and that's pointless.
Your overall thing is you want long-term success for your clients. So that's why you have like this onboarding process to say, look, we're willing to work with you, but you just got to make sure you're serious.
Yeah. And I mean, we put the financial plan first. We wanted Henry's to be able to get a financial game plan without marrying a financial advisor. Like on Wall Street, if you want advice, you basically have to hand your money over, and that kind of sucks. So the Stash Plan is actually a standalone experience where clients can come and get the answers to every single financial question they ask us, and the ones they don't even know to ask, quite frankly, because this stuff wasn't taught in school. But then they can either say like, awesome, thanks for the Stash Plan. I know everything I need to do. And many of us are DIYers. So we're like, want to do it on our own so they can take their game plan and run with it. And then some people are like, hell no, if I don't have you guys to hold me accountable, this shit's never happening. And they sign up for full-time support.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. So everybody that comes on the show, I always do this to them. What could you offer Money Peach listeners? Is there any kind of service?
Who want to get their financial together?
Yeah, is there anything like bonus? Like somebody's listening to this going, Chris usually asks if, basically, I'm not saying give away something for free, but can you give us some kind of like kickback or discount or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to encourage Henrys to get their financial together. So for those people, your listeners who qualify for the Stash Plan, they qualify as a Henry. It's $1,000 game plan. We'll knock $100 off. So $897.
Okay, so how do they get that?
So when they go to the website and you're purchasing the Stash Plan, enter the promo code MoneyPeachHookup.
Hookup. Money
for $100.
Hookup. Okay, $100. We'll put links in the show notes to all that, so you guys will have that. So that's cool. So thank you for doing that. Priya, the next thing, we're coming close here to wrapping up here in the end. Some of the questions I have for you is, I love your story. I mean, you have a really cool entrepreneurial story. You took something that you saw was broken. How can you make it better? And you did just that. I mean, no one talks about money being fun and cool like you guys do. I mean, it's definitely unique. It's definitely different. Like I said, check out Priya's website. We'll put links in the show notes. I mean, it's not so I don't want to take your tagline away, but what does like the very beginning that video say? Like, is it your dad?
We're not your dad's financial advisor.
Exactly. And that's cool because that's what deters people away from, even wanting to dive into the money world is it's so boring. It's like talking about life insurance, right? I mean, it's boring. So you found a way to make it sexy. Kudos to you. I think that's amazing because I'm the same way. I'm always trying to say like money can be cool. they're like, yes, money's cool if you have it. I'm like, no, the whole idea of money can be cool. You just got to make it cool, right? This whole money thing is starting to become cool, especially with people like Priya and people from Stash, because we're not talking about your dad's financial advisor that's extremely boring and talks over your head in terms you don't understand, right? We're talking
and tells you no.
That tells you no. Yeah. Well, hey, I've told people no before when they're like, I don't feel like saving or paying down debt. I just feel like blowing it all. And I'll be like, no, you can't do that. Right.
Fair enough.
So fair enough. Okay. So yeah, but go out and, if you want a Tesla, go buy a Tesla. Just don't go pay interest on that Tesla for the rest of your life, right? Go save up and buy one, make it fun. But questions I have for you, I always ask everybody this, is what books would you recommend somebody pick up today? If you were to give away a book, like what's the book you give away most?
Oh, okay. So 2 of my favorite books, these are more for our entrepreneurial clients, but one is called E-Myth.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now on my
desk. Do you know E-Myth?
Yep, I'm looking at it right now.
Awesome. I love it. I think it's so smart and so digestible. And then the other one that we give away is Profit First. And Profit First is sort of like a revenue profit. It's a way to understand. Have you heard of this one?
I have that one on my desk too. So it's so crazy you're saying that.
Up.
Yeah, so I heard of Profit First about 6 episodes ago. Someone mentioned it. So I got that. And then I actually have in front of me the E-Myth Revisited. It's the Michael Gerber book.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, I'm sitting here looking at it right now.
It's a little cheesy, but I like it.
Okay, and these are short reads too. They're not like these. It's not like a Tools of Titan book that's just going to blow your mind, right? This is a shorter read. You could through it pretty quick. Okay, so we're going to put links to the show notes definitely inside there for those who want to jump on that. So real quick, that was the E-Myth, correct?
Yes.
And Profit First.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Last question I have for you before we wrap up here is, what is on your phone? What's your home screen? What's the image?
Oh my gosh. I think it's it's a mountain in Vermont, in Killington, because it's about to be ski season and I like to ski, but it's the mountain without snow on it. But I probably have to change that because it's snowing up there now. It's officially ski season.
It is officially ski season. Very cool. Priya, would you ever just throw this out there? Maybe we revisit this in 6 months to a year, have you back on the show to kind of update the Henrys on what's going on?
Sure, that would be awesome.
We would love that. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're awesome. I'm glad that we didn't completely disagree with everything. And I'm glad we had fun bleeping. We got to use the bleep button quite a bit today. And the bleep button is fun. So thank you so much for coming on the show. You're awesome.
My pleasure. Thanks, Chris.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, links, anything that Priya and I talked about can be found over at moneypeach.com/session75. That's moneypeach.com/session75. Special thanks goes out to my producer, Steve Stewart, and my assistant, Kayla Sloan. Without them, this show would not be possible. Stay tuned next week for episode 76, where I bring on Colin Jones, master card counter and founder of Blackjack Apprentice.
So I started counting cards. I started with about $2,000 and won over $600,000 personally, and then co-managed a team that won close to $4 million.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Boom,